respect it. Listen to me carefully for the next few seconds, because what I'm about to say might change the way you see love forever. Sometimes the greatest pain a man feels does not happen when you leave him. It happens later. It happens in the silence. It happens in the empty moments. And the more time passes without you, the harder it hits him that he lost someone who truly loved him. There's something people don't talk about enough when it comes to relationships. Everybody talks about heartbreak from the side of the person who got left behind. Everybody talks about the tears, the sleepless nights, the loneliness, but very few people stop and ask what happens to the person who walked away. What happens to the man who thought you would always be there no matter how he treated you? What happens when the phone stops ringing, when your messages disappear, when your presence slowly fades from his everyday life? See, in the beginning, he may not feel it at all. That's the dangerous part. At first, he distracts himself. He tells himself he needed space. He convinces himself he made the right choice. He goes out with friends. He laughs loudly. He acts unbothered. Some men even jump into another relationship immediately because they cannot sit alone with their own thoughts. They mistake distraction for healing. But time has a way of exposing truth. Time strips away ego. Time removes noise. And eventually reality walks into the room and sits right beside him. That's when it starts hitting him. Not all at once. Little by little, he hears a song you used to love while driving late at night. Suddenly, the silence in the car feels heavier than usual. He walks past a restaurant where the two of you once laughed until closing time, and now the place feels colder somehow. He reaches for his phone to tell you something funny he saw online, then remembers you're no longer there to send it to. And that's when absence begins speaking louder than presence ever did. See, a lot of men don't understand your value while you're standing in front of them. Familiarity blinds people. When someone loves you consistently, supports you daily, checks on you, believes in you, forgives you, and stands beside you through storms, human nature sometimes takes that love for granted. Not because they're evil, but because they assume it will never disappear. That assumption becomes their biggest mistake. I remember hearing a man once say something that shook me deeply. He said, "I didn't realize she was the piece of my life until the chaos came after she left." Now, think about that. Some people are blessings wrapped so quietly in everyday life that you don't recognize their value until they're gone. You don't notice how much light they brought into your world until darkness arrives. You don't notice how safe they made you feel until loneliness starts eating at your spirit. And the truth is, many women spend years trying to prove their worth to someone who only understands loss after the goodbye. You call him. You text him. You explain yourself. You beg for effort. You ask for honesty. You ask for time. You ask for love. But some people only wake up when silence replaces your voice. And I need somebody listening to me right now to understand this clearly. Your absence has power, not fake absence, not manipulation, not games. I'm talking about real absence. The kind that happens when a woman finally gets tired of being emotionally neglected and decides to choose herself. The kind that happens when she finally says, "I deserve peace too." That kind of absence. CE changes everything, because suddenly he no longer has access to your energy whenever he wants it. He no longer hears your encouragement after a hard day. He no longer feels the comfort of knowing someone genuinely cares about him no matter what. And time starts teaching lessons your words never could. You see, words can be ignored, but absence cannot. A man may ignore your tears. He may ignore your warnings. He may ignore your frustration. But when your presence disappears from his life completely, eventually he is forced to face what he lost. And let me tell you something powerful. Regret grows in silence. Late at night when distractions disappear, regret gets louder. Early in the morning when he wakes up and realizes nobody is there checking on him anymore, regret grows heavier. Holidays feel different. Weekends feel emptier. Success feels less exciting when there's nobody meaningful beside him to share it with. That's when memories begin haunting him. He remembers the small things first. The way you smiled when he walked into the room. The way you supported his dreams even when he doubted himself. The way you stood beside him during hard seasons. The way you all gave things you shouldn't have forgiven, The way you loved him was sincerity in a world full of temporary people. And suddenly he realizes something painful. Not everybody loves like you did. See, that's a lesson many people learn too late. Real love is rare. Loyalty is rare. Genuine emotional connection is rare. In today's world, people know how to entertain each other, but very few know how to truly care for one another. And once someone loses authentic love, life starts feeling different. I want to tell you a story. There was a man who spent years chasing excitement. Every time life became stable, he got bored. Every time a woman loved him deeply, he became careless. He thought love would always be available. He thought another good woman would appear anytime he wanted. And eventually, one woman finally had enough. She didn't scream. She didn't argue. She didn't try to force him to understand her pain anymore. She simply left. At first, he felt relieved. No accountability. No emotional conversations. No pressure. Freedom felt exciting for a while. But then weeks turned into months. And something unexpected happened. The women he met afterward looked good on the O. Outside, but none of them brought him peace. None of them believed in him the way she did. None of them truly knew his soul. Conversations became shallow. Connections became temporary. He started realizing he had traded something real for something meaningless. One night, he sat alone in his apartment staring at old messages from her. And for the first time in his life, he cried not because someone hurt him, but because he finally understood the pain he caused someone else. That's the moment time finally broke him. See, life has a strange way of humbling people. Sometimes people only recognize value after losing access to it. Sometimes distance creates understanding that closeness never could. But here's the important part I need you to hear. His realization should never become your mission. Too many women destroy themselves waiting for a man to finally appreciate them. They put their healing on pause, hoping he'll wake up one day. They stop living. They stop growing. They stop believing in themselves because they're emotionally tied to somebody who failed to recognize their worth. Don't do that to yourself. If time teaches him your value, let time do its work. But you cannot. Your future waiting for somebody else to grow emotionally. Your job is not to convince someone to love you correctly. Your job is to love yourself enough to walk away from what continuously breaks your spirit. And that takes strength. Because walking away from someone you love is one of the hardest things a human being can do. Especially when part of you still hopes they'll change. Especially when memories keep pulling at your heart. Especially when loneliness whispers lies into your mind late at night. But growth often begins with painful decisions. Sometimes God removes you from places where you are tolerated so you can find places where you are truly valued. And I know somebody listening right now needs to hear this. Just because he misses you later does not erase the pain he caused you earlier. Let that sink in. A person can regret losing you and still not be emotionally mature enough to love you properly. Missing someone and valuing someone are not always the same thing. Some people miss access. Some people miss comfort. Some people miss what you did for them. But real love requires transformation, accountability, and emotional growth. That's why you cannot allow loneliness to pull you back into cycles that destroyed your peace before. Because sometimes the hardest lesson in life is understanding that closure is not always reconciliation. Sometimes closure is simply realizing you deserve better all along. And when you finally understand your worth, something inside you changes forever. You stop begging for attention. You stop chasing validation. You stop shrinking yourself to fit into somebody else's limited capacity to love. You begin protecting your heart differently. And ironically, that's often when he feels your absence the most. Because confidence changes your energy. Self-respect changes your presence. Healing changes the way people experience you. When you stop chasing, people notice. When you stop over-explaining, people notice. When you finally choose peace over emotional chaos, people notice. And the more time passes without you, the more your absence becomes impossible to ignore. There comes a moment in every person's life when silence becomes louder than words. And for many men, that moment does not arrive during the relationship. It arrives after everything is over. It arrives when the woman they thought would finally disappears from their daily life, and suddenly they are left alone with memories they can no longer escape. See, when you are constantly available to someone, they sometimes stop recognizing your value. Human beings adapt to comfort very quickly. They adapt to kindness. They adapt to loyalty. They adapt to love. And once they become used to it, they start treating rare things like ordinary things. That's why some people only understand your importance after your absence creates a void nothing else can fill. I remember talking to a man years ago who told me something I will never forget. He said, I thought I needed freedom, but what I really needed was maturity. Now think about how powerful that statement is. Sometimes people leave not because you weren't enough, but because they are emotionally unprepared for real love. Real love requires responsibility. It requires honesty. It requires consistency. It requires emotional discipline. And not everybody is ready for that. Some people want the comfort of love without the responsibility that comes with protecting another person's heart. And when they finally lose someone genuine, reality starts teaching less. Everyone's pride refused to learn. You know what hurts many men the most over time? It's not always the breakup itself. It's the realization that you kept loving them even when they were difficult to love. It's realizing you stayed patient during seasons when they gave you confusion instead of clarity. It's realizing you were carrying emotional weight they never appreciated. At first, they overlooked those things. But time has a way of replaying memories differently. See, during the relationship, ego often controls perception. Pride blinds people. Distractions numb people. But after separation, memories become clearer. Suddenly, he starts remembering moments he once ignored. He remembers how you checked on him when nobody else did. He remembers how you celebrated his smallest victories. He remembers how you believed in him during moments he secretly doubted himself. He remembers how safe your presence felt after difficult days. And little by little, regret starts settling into his spirit. Not because you were perfect, but because your love was real. That's the part people underestimate. Real love leaves fingerprints on the soul. You cannot experience genuine care from somebody and we ain't change forever. Eventually, life will compare every shallow connection to the depth of what you once had. And when that comparison starts happening, the absence becomes heavier. You know, some people think moving on means forgetting, but life doesn't work that way. People may move forward physically while emotionally carrying memories for years. Certain people become part of your emotional history forever. Their voice stays in your mind. Their energy stays attached to certain places, songs, seasons, and moments. And the deeper the connection was, the longer those memories last. That's why some men become haunted by timing. They start realizing they met the right woman during the wrong season of their life. They realized they were too immature to handle something meaningful. They realized they prioritized temporary pleasures over lasting connection. And when that understanding arrives, it can break a person emotionally. Because regret is painful when you know the loss was your own doing. There's a difference between losing someone because life pulled you apart and losing someone because you failed to value them while you had the chance. That second type of regret, it cuts deeper. I once heard an older man say young people think love is about excitement. Older people learn love is about peace. That statement carries wisdom because excitement fades, looks change, life gets hard, and eventually people stop searching for perfection and start searching for peace. They start searching for loyalty, for understanding, for emotional safety, for someone who genuinely stands beside them during difficult seasons. And if you were that kind of woman in his life, trust me, time will eventually remind him what he lost, especially when life becomes difficult. See, loneliness hits differently during struggle. Anybody can feel confident when everything is going well, but hard seasons expose emotional truth. When stress arises, when failure arises, when disappointment arises, suddenly people begin missing the ones who truly cared about them. That's when your absence becomes undeniable, because temporary people disappear during hard times. But genuine love stays, and many men don't fully understand the value of emotional support until life humbles them. I want you to imagine this for a second. Imagine a man sitting alone after a long, exhausting day. His phone is quiet. The excitement he once chased no longer fulfills him. The attention he thought he wanted feels empty. And suddenly his mind drifts back to the woman who once made life feel softer, not louder, not more dramatic, softer. That's the kind of love people miss forever. A woman who brought peace into chaos. A woman who made him feel understood. A woman who stood beside him when life was uncertain. Those women leave emotional marks that time cannot easily erase. But listen carefully to what I'm about to say next, because this part matters deeply. While he is learning your value through absence, you must learn your value through healing. Do not spend your life obsessing over whether somebody misses you. The real goal is not revenge. The real goal is growth. Because sometimes people become so focused on being missed that they forget to become happy. And happiness matters more than validation. I know heartbreak can make you question yourself. I know rejection can damage confidence. I know being emotionally neglected can make you feel invisible. But somebody's inability to love you properly is not proof that you were unworthy of love. Please hear me clearly. Do not measure your worth by how long it takes someone else to realize your value. Some people recognize gold immediately. Others need to lose it first. That difference says more about their emotional awareness than your worth. And one of the most powerful things you can do after heartbreak is rebuild yourself quietly. Not for revenge, not for attention, not to make him jealous, but because you deserve to become whole again. Heal your heart, reconnect with your purpose, strengthen your spirit, rediscover your identity outside of the relationship. Because somewhere along the way, too many people lose themselves trying to hold on to somebody else. They stop pursuing dreams. They stop prioritizing peace. They stop believing in their own future. Never let heartbreak make you abandon yourself. And let me tell you something beautiful about healing. When you truly heal, your energy changes completely. You no longer chase people who confuse you. You no longer beg for consistency. You no longer tolerate emotional crumbs while calling it love. You start choosing differently. And that transformation becomes powerful. Because whether he returns or not, you become stronger. Weth regrets losing you or not, you become wiser. Whether he realizes your value today or 10 years from now, you stop needing external validation to feel worthy. That's freedom. Real freedom is no longer needing someone else's realization to confirm your importance. And ironically, that inner strength often becomes the very thing that hits him hardest later. Because when a woman finally stops waiting, stops chasing, stops pleading, and starts truly living again, her absence becomes unforgettable. The memories become sharper. The silence becomes heavier. The regret becomes deeper. And the more time passes without you, the more he starts understanding that some losses cannot be replaced. You know, one of the hardest truths about love is this. People often understand the depth of a connection only after distance forces them to live without it. While you were there, your love became part of his routine. Your care became expected. Your presence became normal. But once that presence disappears, life starts exposing all the invisible ways you made things better. And that realization can shake a man to his core, because absence creates comparison. That's what time does. It comes together. Aries what he lost to what he experiences afterward. And eventually, reality starts separating temporary attention from genuine connection. He begins noticing that not everyone checks on him with sincerity. Not everyone supports him without hidden motives. Not everyone loves with patience, loyalty, and understanding. Some people only know how to entertain. Very few know how to nurture. And if you were someone who nurtured his spirit, trust me, life will remind him of your value again and again, especially when the noise dies down. You see, distractions are temporary. A crowded room can still feel lonely. A relationship without emotional depth can still feel empty. Some people spend years surrounding themselves with company while secretly starving for real connection. And eventually, the soul gets tired of shallow experiences. That's when memories become dangerous. Because memories don't just replay moments, they replay feelings. He starts remembering how peaceful he felt beside you. He remembers conversations that felt genuine instead of forced. He remembers how you listened when he spoke about fears he never shared with anyone else. He remembers the comfort of being emotion. You're also seen And once someone experiences that kind of connection, ordinary interactions start feeling incomplete. That's why time can hit harder than the breakup itself. At first, pride protects people from emotional truth. Ego creates distractions. But time slowly tears those walls down. And once the silence gets loud enough, emotions people avoided finally rise to the surface. That's when regret becomes personal. Not because he lost a woman, but because he lost your specific energy. See, people are not replaceable the way the world pretends they are. Every person carries something unique into another person's life. Your laugh, your kindness, your way of understanding him without words, your emotional presence, your patience during difficult moments. Nobody duplicates that exactly. And deep down, many men eventually realize they weren't just loved by you, they were emotionally covered by you. That's why life feels colder afterward. I once knew a man who spent years pretending he was unaffected after losing a good woman. On the outside, he looked fine. He smiled. He dated other people. He posted pictures acting happy.